welcome to the Pitch of Discontent. Owen back again for another guest episode. Very, very excited to be connected with our guest today. This is returning champion, King Yosef. What up?
Just got to come defend my title.
You flexing on me? What are you doing?
Yeah, dude. Reigning champion.
Yes, dude. I've been pumped to get you back on the show. We had you on in 2023. It was a different version of the show. We were doing the playlist stuff. It was audio only, so people didn't get to see your beautiful face. But now we've got that crisp, international semi-HD studio background going on. So I hope everyone enjoys the production values you brought today.
Yeah, my war zone of boxes. And what's funny, too, is my normal webcam doesn't show this much.
Yeah.
And I turned it on and was like, I only have like 2 minutes. I can't do anything about this. I just gotta roll. This is good.
I appreciate the wide angle shot. Like everything is in somewhat focus. Like you look like a busy guy.
There's even a dog back here too.
Hell yeah. My dog's in here. He's on his bed somewhere, I think. But anyway.
Yeah, that's all they do is sleep.
That's it. He's just chilling. So we were kind of chopping it up off mic. We were talking about your recent honeymoon that you went on to the motherland in Ireland. Congratulations for getting hitched, by the way.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, awesome. Being married to badass.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of meeting your then fiance, now wife. She was lovely when you were in the country last year with Greg. That was 2024.
Yeah, 2024. Yeah.
Honeymoon looked gorgeous. I'm very jealous. I want to briefly mention something before we get into the main show, which is we featured one of your new singles on a previous episode of the show. And I mentioned how you and I chat pretty much every week, just like talking about music and like literature and all sorts of shit. And Paige was like, yeah, you're like a reply guy. And I was like, hey. I saw that. I think it's a bit deeper than that, okay? But
it is deeper than that, but wife's roasting is funny. So, for Paige's bit, she could have it.
Yeah, totally. I let her have that one. She cooked me. That was all fair. But I just want to say that, I thought I should defend my honor here a little bit, and that I'm giving reply guy energy respectfully is what I wanted to say.
Yeah, let the record stand. Owen's my bro. We talk about all sorts of shit all the time. It's midnight my time, and I'm like, dude, the way Dostoevsky says this right here, man. And then Owen makes me feel like I'm not insane.
Yes, thank you.
You'll revel in it with me. Yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah, hell yeah. Well, dude, thank you for coming back on the show. Like I said, I've been eager to get this connect up and running and kind of just chat about the new record and all the kind of cool shit that you've been doing. So let's start there. Before we talk about the new record, let's talk about all the shit that you did in between the last one and the new one. So I've got a couple of points to hit. You did a fuckload of touring. You were in like all over the States, North America. You did Europe, did the UK, did Japan, did Australia. So, like, what's it like being on the road all the fucking time?
Yeah, I mean, it'll obviously, we'll get to it later, like, the new album, but it definitely played into it. Like, how... I think we were gone 5 months out of the year last year.
That's a lot. It's almost half.
Yeah, it was... and obviously there's other bands who would be like, we're gone 9 months, dude. But... if I'm not on tour, I'm right here. I'm here with my wife. I have like a routine. I'm a creature of habit, and like the compulsion towards art's the only thing that pulls me to go into the real world.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, it was amazing. It was, I always talk about touring as like one of the few things in the world that can be the worst thing and the best thing at the same time. Mm-hmm. I imagine like not the same level, but like being a parent, you've never been so simultaneously proud and disappointed. So yeah, touring, it's like, your wins are the best wins you've ever felt in your life, and your losses
Sure.
are the worst losses you've ever felt.
All the extremes, baby. No middle.
No middle. The only middle ground is sitting in the van, dude, and just being like, oh, that's awesome. We're driving through, fucking Kansas.
Hell yeah.
It's fun for me because, like, I'm like a Wikipedia guy. I love history. I love history about places. I love, just knowing random bullshit about things. But my band literally makes fun of me because, like, we'll be driving through Kansas really bored. And then I'll be like, did you guys? And they'll be like, oh, are you on Wikipedia again? Because I'm like, you can't actually own this caliber of rifle in Kansas because it's too flat. So you can shoot for two, But yeah, it was really, really cool. I think like the headliner we did in Melbourne last year was like super duper validating and really awesome. It was like a great turnout and people were super cool and super pumped. Being able to see more of Australia other than Brisbane and Gold Coast was super sick too, because I'd been there, years ago. And like I've been to Brisbane and Tasmania. Like I've been to Hobart. Those are my two places in Australia I had gone.
Fuck the rest of the country. We'll just go here and here.
Yeah, and then talking to Australians and then being like, yeah, I've never been to Tasmania. Like I've never been in my entire life. So that was really cool. I think also too, there's like this, like you create things and you like, for me, I sit in here and then I sit in another studio and then I sit in another studio and that's where I create. And
sure.
Recently, I've brought more people into the fold to be around me while I'm doing that, but it's pretty isolating and you don't really understand how your art's going to play out. Like you can think and you can plan, but it doesn't fucking matter. Like when the song comes out, the interpretation of it, the idea of it, whatever it is, it's like, that's up to the general public.
That's definitely the author, baby. You didn't get a say.
Exactly. So playing live is the one place where you get the affirmation, like in real time to like live through the song that you created. And I think, going to like the first show we did in Australia, that was like what kicked off last year. And being in Brisbane, and I'm like, I'm thousands of miles away from home. And there were like a couple kids who came up and were mic grabbing and like saying my words. I literally cried after the show because I was like, what the fuck, dude? Like, and so to go around the world, kind of, we didn't do that much Europe, but like to do that and like have those small little moments of like insane validation that, sitting here and any artist feels this too, not just me, but like sitting, creating, being psychotic and, so in the fold of like, I need to create something. And then to go somewhere and people get it. And you're in a place where like, Japan was like the big, like, wow for me. Cause it was like, I think we played 4 shows there and I'd never been there. It really does feel like a culture that's grown on its own, so separate from anything Western.
Yeah.
So it was the first place where I was like, I feel like a real tourist here. And then we played in Osaka and like a man showed up in a business suit halfway through our set. And I was like, this is really bizarre. Like while I'm performing, I was like, this guy's in a suit. And then he was in the back and we started playing the song from the last album, Power. And every single word, he was like screaming it and pointing at me. And I was like, we don't even speak the same language.
That's so sick.
And I pointed at him and it was like this moment of like, yeah, dude. So yeah, the touring cycle was like, to do the international thing was insane. These are songs that I've written in my basement and like, to me feel very like where I'm from.
Sure.
My music feels like, like it lives in the state I do. And so then to go overseas and Australia and Japan was like insane. And then we came home, had 3 weeks of rest with 2 or 3 rehearsals in there. And then we left for like the biggest US tour we'd ever done. With Health and Pixel Grip. And that was like, the right before we came to Australia, like back in September, October 2023, we got offered to open for Converge. And we played like a
Huge.
venue I've been going to since I was a youngster here. And it's like, I think it's like 600 capacity. And for us, we were like, this is it, man. It's as big as it'll ever get. And so then to like, have the health dudes like be so kind to us and take us out. And then to go from that to like, we're playing in like front of like 1,500 people, 2,000 people in some of these shows. And like the reception was so awesome and everybody was so cool to us. Like it was insane. And then, yeah, so was gone for I think 5 or 6 weeks on that. Did all of them, most of America,
Yeah.
We did not go to Kansas. I'm sorry, Kansas. Sorry, Florida.
You'll hit it
Yeah.
next time. It's okay.
Yeah, didn't play Alabama. Did some Canadian shows on that too. And then we're home. I think we got home April 6th. And the first show because we did Paris, London, and Roadburn. And London was the first one. And I think London was on the 16th or something like that.
Fuck. It's just like back to back to back. Yeah.
Yeah, so then we flew out for that. It was like London on a Wednesday night. The agent that had handled it really poorly.
Hell no.
Yeah, there's no contract, so I can say that. And so, I last minute, like I hit up some people. I hit up this band Tane. Shouts out Tane. They're an English band that does like kind of like really noisy pop music, industrial sort of stuff.
Okay.
They're super sick. And I found them on Instagram and literally DM'd them. And I was like, I know this is insane, but I'm playing a show in London in 5 days. Do you want to play with us? And then the show ended up being an amazing show. There was a good amount of people there, people who knew the words. And then, building the road burn, like that was like the most like, what the hell am I doing here thing? Like, Roadburn's such a coveted festival to me as like a person who's like been like a Death Wish fanboy since I was like 15 years old.
Yeah.
Like every band.
We'll get into that in a little bit.
Yeah, like every band that I looked up to or like I thought was cool or was like maybe a little left of the mainstream ideology of like a genre has always played that festival. So to get asked to play it and then like, be playing such a huge stage in front of so many people, I was like what are we like why am I here? And it was amazing, and then same with Paris. Everybody talks about how Paris can be like really brutal to play. Mm-hmm. And I'm here to report that French people are really sweet and they're really awesome.
Okay, nice.
And I'm sure you can meet some Parisians that are rude, you know what I mean? But same in America, So
I mean, yeah, there's rude people everywhere. So like it's not nation specific at all.
Yeah. Every band tells you, they're like, dude, the Parisians though, they're kind of brutal. And everybody was so nice and they like wanted us to do an encore and people bought merch. Like it was a great night. So
yeah, that's what's up.
Yeah, I think after that we came home. We were home for 2.5 weeks, and then we went out for like 2 weeks with that death metal band Body Box.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
cool. Link up.
Yeah, we were definitely the weird band on the bill, but they were fun guys to tour with, and it was like just it was fun to play like to way more hardcore oriented audiences after playing like a lot of goth and like industrial adjacent stuff.
Yeah.
So to have kids like beat the shit out of each other is like, it's awesome.
That's the environment you want. I remember seeing the headline show here in Melbourne, and you dropped the Slipknot cover, and kids went fucking buck wild for that. And there was like stage dives, some push pitting, and a dude like actual pitting in the back. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, nice. He hit the trifecta there. Got all three. That's what's up.
I'll have you know too, for the Australian homies, we'll never do that cover again. And we'd never done it before. It was just for that one show. Like, hell yeah. I didn't have enough demos for the new album at the time, and I was like, we got to extend the set. We got to do something cool, And I also feel like the Slipknot influence on my music is like very prevalent to me, at least.
Yeah, very natural fit for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the one time we ever played it. It was super fun. Also, I was so worried about it because I use so much air when I yell, and Corey Taylor just like fucking gulps air like a fish or something. I don't know, dude. But I was like nervous. I was like, fuck, dude, there's so many words in this song. It's so brutal. And then the amount of mic grabs that happened, I was like, thank God, dude. Like,
Yeah, everyone was picking up the slack. It was fun.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome.
So I think, like, thank you for that nice TLDR summary of all the shit that you've been up to, because it gives people the sense that you've been very busy. And then in amongst all of that, you've managed to kind of elevate the King Yosef project from something that was very kind of like studio oriented into something that's like a fully fledged internationally touring artist, right? So like you've got lots of shows under your belt, you've been to all these different places. So I wanted to kind of ask, before we get into the specifics of the new record, how did all of that like live stuff and on the road stuff feed back into the new record? Like in what ways were you like, okay, I need to take this aspect and turn that into shit on the new record? Like talk me kind of through the headspace there.
Yeah, a huge part of that is like it's gonna be like pretty logistical, but like tempos.
Okay.
Um tempos and pausing, like in stops and how things turn around was the biggest thing I noticed. Like especially the health tour, you know. I think that was 28 shows.
Wow.
And we played the set the same every single night.
Shit.
Because it was like, you know, I very methodically figured out like, okay, this is how I want the set to flow, and it worked. It was awesome. But there were certain moments in the set and parts of songs where I was like, every single time we would play, this is the thing that would make it connect to the crowd. Right. And I was like, in the database, you know, and then like, oh, these two songs are like 10 BPM apart, you know, and they feel like this when we start playing them. People like that tempo. I like that tempo. Why do I have to do a tempo change out of that all the time? I was like, yeah. I need to figure out where that consistently sits. Mm-hmm. So I definitely think like seeing how things play off of a crowd is a huge influence on the new album. It's not like I'm writing like, oh yeah, this will be perfect for, you know, them. But it's definitely like when I'm writing something, upon deciding how I'm going to proceed with it, I'm definitely like, okay, now zoom out of myself and what I want out of this. Like, how does this play if I'm watching from the crowd right now? Yeah. And it definitely, you know, I think not the problem, but the thing with King Yosef songs is like they're pretty abstract to people who listen to like normal music.
Yeah.
So like the dynamic range isn't always there for them.
That makes entire sense to me. And like, I'll admit, like, I'm not a huge industrial head. Like, I don't listen to lots of like goth and industrial stuff. Like, I have my favorites, but I'm not like ahead of that kind of genre, right? But like listening to your music and specifically listening to the last record, I was like, oh, this is cool. And I think like on the previous episode with you, I kind of said like, this is like weird and fucked up, but in like the best possible way. I'm really kind of like resonating with what's going on here. But then seeing you live and seeing you play the songs, like clicked it even further for me. And the live dimension like dialed everything in, and I was like, oh, that's where the like the hardcore punk shit comes in. That's where the intensity comes in, the tempos, like you were just saying. Like all of that made a lot more sense, and the live dynamic really helped kind of just like cement what you're doing with the project. So I can entirely understand how like doing that so much on the road, you're like, all right, now I know what really hits. I can do that in the studio.
Well, and like I think the thing is too, like about the way I write music is it's like the whole point is to get to a place that feels good to me in the most roundabout way generally.
Sure.
Because it like, you know, it's the hardest path generally, but it's because it's like I don't want it to like, you know, I'm not gonna you're wearing a hate breed shirt. I'm not gonna be hate breed at being hate breed.
Yeah,
you know, totally. Like I fucking know that. And like I'm not gonna beat like 9 Inch Nails and Ministry being what they are. So it's like in order to get to the places that I want to do, I'm constantly like instead of using a guitar, I'm like, how far can I get without picking the guitar up? Because the guitar is easy for me. I know how to play. How do I like subvert that as long as I possibly can while I'm writing a song until it's like, okay, we're at the last moments, it doesn't feel right. And I know if I put the guitar on it, it's the right thing now because I tried every other thing.
Yeah.
So I think that in out of the live context, you know, like an underlying hum is not necessarily like a live record. It's that to like the extreme.
Yeah.
Because I hadn't played that many shows at the time when I was writing that, because that record took so long. So now I feel like the live knowledge caught up to my production knowledge is how the new record feels to me.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You know, in a movie, like in a scary movie, things get quiet before it gets terrifying. You know, like that's common sense, but it's just like not something, you know, I really realized until like we played the title track off of an underlying hum. That was a closer for basically every show we played last year. And that was always the song where it's like, it feels a little vulnerable to me because I'm just talking over the instrumental. But as it builds every single time without fail, like the energy of it translated to everybody. And I was like, I understand exactly what this is now, you know?
Yeah. It's kind of like building that sense of anticipation and kind of expectation in the audience. And we talk about it on the show all the time, like being able to use like tension and release and kind of like sitting people right in that pocket for like as long as you need to, and then being able to control moving in and out of it is really key. I think with your music, you've kind of nailed that aspect because you've just got spooky, weird, crazy synth non-guitar shit happening underneath everything, but then you know exactly when to hit a nice kind of rhythmic groove or pocket, up the energy, up the intensity, and that kind of snap, like in a live setting fucking rocks, but on record you're just kind of like, oh hell yeah, let's go.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean,
you're welcome.
I think also too, yeah, like what you're saying, like I felt like it felt very conscious to me before we hit this huge tour cycle last year. And even like, you know, I could rewind it back to like summer 2023 after an underlying hum came out. We had toured a bit, but like going into the Converge shows, you know, and like jumping up in room size and crowd size was like really intimidating.
Yeah.
And all of those things, you know, I realized like there's a quote from Justin Broderick, and I've quoted it in interviews before, but I don't care because it's like I do live by it. But Justin Broderick said, yeah, he literally said in an interview that like, you know, I play every show like it's gonna be my last one. You know, because like, what if it is? What if like the next day it's just like the day I decided it's over? You know, and like I gave a fucking 55% performance, you know, and he basically was like, you can't be 100% all the time, but if you're 80 to like 100%, like what else could you want from yourself?
Yeah.
And so once I started to understand like the way people were perceiving it, like on record, like it was like, oh, it's like a guy with a laptop. That was like for me when I was like, oh, so like when we perform live, like I have to go to an even further extent because it's like, you know, that's how it connects with people. Like I want the presence of like what it is live to be domineering and like uncomfortable for people. I would rather be polarizing than be like middle of the road. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. I've said this on the show before, but like the worst thing music can do is make you indifferent to it. And like,
100%.
I listen to so much fucking music for the show, and like, you know, most of it is fine. And then the stuff that I think is actually good or excellent, or the stuff that is interesting, is the stuff that I'm excited to talk to people about. But there's lots of music that I listen to, and I'm like, that was okay. That's fine. But like, if you're setting out to always try and create something that will make something happen in the listener emotionally, I think you're creating from like a very genuine place. And yeah.
I mean, yeah, the idea to me too, like with King Yosef stuff, is like it's like the same reason like when I'm really transparent about the way I do things, like production wise, because it's like the whole point of this is that I'm like a kid, you know, who's a man now, but was a kid with a laptop, and that's how this started.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm doing this all in a studio with a computer. and I'm trying to push it as far in a direction as I possibly can, you know. Like I said, I would rather not be middle of the road. If somebody loves it, that's awesome. And if they hate it, that's awesome too. I don't want anybody to be like, it was cool. But
No,
that
I
being
feel you.
said, it's like, you know, my goal is like, I don't want to be, there's a lot of things that King Yosef sounds like, but I don't sound like a clone of anybody else. You know what I'm saying? Like,
No, I totally get you, dude.
like I want, like you, I always joke that my music's like a Rorschach test for people. So like whatever you're into of my influences, you'll pick the big one, you know, not you, but people in general will pick the big one that they know. And to them, that's what I sound like. So
Yeah.
like some people will be like, oh, you sound like Nine Inch Nails because it's the only thing they've ever heard. That's
Mhm.
like even remotely industrial. Younger kids will be like, you sound like Death Grips. And it's like, if you peel back the layers of my music, I don't actually sound like either of those groups. Like,
Sure.
you know, surely there's influences, but like, I don't actually share very much in common with them other than like maybe not being into traditional song form and liking drum machines. Like,
Yeah.
that's about it.
No, but it is this active synthesis, right? Like you are trying to like meld all of your different influences, both from like a production standpoint, but also just like music that you enjoy and that you fuck with and the stuff that resonates with you. You're trying to like synthesize all of that into something new and something that is idiosyncratic, something that is King Yosef. You don't want to just be a clone of someone else.
Yeah, I mean, it would suck really bad if somebody was just like, this just sounds like God flesh, you know? And it did. And it,
Fuck
like,
them.
I was like, fuck, man. You know what? They're totally right. That would suck. But I don't, that's not like a thing I fear anymore, at least.
No.
Because it's just like I've gone enough in a direction. All that to be said, though, is it's like, you know, I know my music's not like commercial or like super palatable. It's challenging by design. But if some kid hears what I'm doing and in 5 years has ripped me off and does something insane, like that's really the dream, is that like anybody else like could possibly see what I'm doing that's into production and into hardcore and into metal and all this weird shit and also follow down this path, you know, and like level it up because, you know, I love a lot of music, but there's a lot of music like we were just talking about that's like, you know.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I mean, there's two cliches there. There's imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, and all great artists steal. They're all a patchwork of their influences. So, yeah, if there's a kid out there who's listening to King Yosef and is like, I could do this better. Like, I could make this more
hell
fucked
yeah.
up. Like, off you go, sir.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Let's talk about the new record then. We've kind of been dancing around it. We've talked about the build up to it. Let's talk about the new record. So,
cool.
Spire of Fear is coming out on August 15th. By the time I edit this and put it up, the record should be out. So, go listen to it, go run it up. But I guess talk to me about the process of building this record, following an underlying hum, the kind of exposure that you got for the project through that record. You know, you obviously did a lot of shows, all the stuff that we've touched about. When you went back into the studio, how did you start putting together the material that would become Spire of Fear?
Yeah, so I think I came home, like we were talking about, end of May last year, and I gave myself a deadline. This is the second real album.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, an underlying hum. I think the first demo was 2019, and it's released in 2023. You know, because it's like me being like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do my first album, and taking my time and revising and revising and revising. And so I was like, okay, well, you know, how does this process differ? Because the last process was brutal, and it took so long, and it was excruciating. So I think at the end of May, beginning of June, give or take, I just was like, okay, I'm going to start writing the album. Like, I was like, it's that simple. Like, I didn't really have a ton of demos or anything. I didn't have like, oh yeah, I've got 20 tracks I've just been sitting on. Like, I had one song at the time, and it's not even on the album. Like,
Oh shit!
it was finished, and it ended up not making the cut because it was like, it was like the warning shot, if you will. Like, it was like it wasn't real. And so yeah, from June until November is all of Spire of Fear writing. And it was like in the most consolidated amount of time possible. And I kind of tried to be like, trust myself, like, whatever I write is King Yosef, because it's like it's me now, I'm like so intertwined with my music at this point that like the weird influences and the weird sounds and like the weird places it goes, it's because that's all the shit I'm into. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
totally.
Like, trust the process that it's supposed to be the way that it is. And like, that's the idea behind writing this album. And so I also felt too, with like an underlying hum, the album's obviously so personal for me lyrically. But I definitely felt I was subversive about like what I was talking about a lot of the time. Like, it was still a little shrouded, and B, like, that was all the past. Like, I was talking about things in retrospect, like basically that entire album. So it felt like, okay, I'm performing these songs over and over again, and they're all just like songs about things that have already happened, that I already went through and I dealt with. And by the time it came out, I had already like moved on with my life.
Totally. That's the nature of the beast, right?
Yeah. So I felt like, well, okay, like, I'm giving myself a deadline. So I think by July, a month into writing the album, which is psychotic to think about in retrospect, I emailed Kurt Ballou and was like, when can I come to the studio?
Yeah.
And he was like, November. And I was like, okay, I have till November to finish writing this entire album.
Yeah, nice. Put a little pressure on your back there.
It was like, it was pretty intense, honestly, but I was like in such like a fertile headspace of creativity, where it was like, I didn't really see anybody. I wasn't like really like out and about. When I would bring people into the fold, it generally revolved around writing. Like, people would come visit, and I'd be like, you can come visit, but I'm writing an album right now. And that's how some of the production on there ended up on there.
Yeah, right. Just touching on the Kurt stuff, like, obviously you collaborated with Kurt and Zach Weeks at God City for the last record, and the collaborators again on Spire of Fear. Was there ever a kind of moment where you were like, do I go somewhere else? Or were you always just like, no, I had such a dope time last time that like I'm going back for this next run?
I recorded 5 songs with Kurt right after. That's like a whole other thing I left out too, of the like whole tour cycle thing. After we did those dates with Converge, I was home for 6 days and then flew to the studio to record with Kurt again for 5 new songs, which ended up coming out literally, I think, the first date of tour in Australia.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and those songs were like, I told him when we finished that process that I was like, this is the closest we've ever gotten to like what's in my head. And he was like, awesome. He was like, well, if you want to do album 2 with me, like, we have a great starting place. And I was like, cool. And so I think, working with Kurt and Zach, it's like, outside of the music thing, like, they've become my friends. And like, I said it a lot in the underlying hum cycle, but like, Kurt and Zach treating me like a contemporary and not like a child.
Yeah.
And being the people that were like, I remember having like a moment where I didn't know what to do in the studio. And Kurt was like, it's your song. Do what you want to do. And it was like, such a simple piece of advice, but something that like absolutely hit me to my core. And that happens a lot with him, where it's like, I respect him and I trust his opinion a lot. And he is very like relaxed about catering to my vision. So I think like the repertoire we've built up is like so deep now that going into album 2, like I was like, I know how I want to do this. I know what it's going to be. Working with Kurt and Zach, like I was like, I can have the conversation now where I'm not like intimidated, or I'm not like, fuck, I got to tell Kurt to turn the snare up, man. Like that sucks, I got to tell the guy. So I felt like, the comfortability level with us was so important. And also like for me personally, Kurt's drum mixing is like some of the best in the whole goddamn game.
Oh, for sure.
I'm a drum guy. So when bands are like, oh yeah, we're going to record with, insert the 5 producers and engineers that have that good of drum mixes like Kurt do, and then they switch off and then their drums sound like ass. I'm like, absolutely not. Kurt understands what I want to do. We're doing that.
I think like when you mentioned like as a kid really being into like the Death Wish kind of catalog and the various kind of sounds and different bands that label has worked with, I think like Kurt at the level of production is kind of like a genre unto himself. And like,
oh yeah, 100%.
You definitely know the difference. Like when you hear his production, when you hear his mixing, like it's a certain like caliber of elevation above like anything else that a band has done with someone else. Like he has that ability to kind of just like shave it down to like its rawest, most primal elements. So I can.
It sounds like a band in front of you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's what a record should sound like, I actually do have a funny Kurt story that I'm going to tell real quick. But it's good for the record, too, because this happened because of Instagram. But last year when we were on the health tour, they would do like the King Yosef experience, the Pixel Group experience, and basically just like do little Instagram content videos following us around for the day and like what our day is like on tour. And I was being funny. They asked me, what's the worst tattoo you've got? And I jokingly said, I regret getting a Converge tattoo after meeting Kurt. Like, I literally even said it like that, too. Like, where I'm very obviously, like, being
very
funny.
Winking. Yeah.
Yeah, like, that's my dog. That's my bro. The comment section of that fucking Instagram post, dude, I had to, like, talk to Kurt and be like, dude, like people on the internet think I don't like you and that you did something wrong and I'm really sorry because I just made a joke. And he was like, yeah, dude, that's what happens on the internet.
Yeah.
But he wasn't mad at me. But yeah, I had to like go in the comment section and be like, yeah, I have beef with the guy who recorded my entire discography. Like,
and it's also funny too, because like I listened to when we had you on the show last time, I listened to that episode this morning, and you talk about kind of like meeting Kurt for the first time and working with him and how he's just like Ned Flanders and one of the funniest guys you'll ever meet. And you develop this very like close relationship of like in jokes and shit. And like he just helps like kind of like bro down with you to kind of like make the record. Hilarious to think that you would have that experience and then be like, "That dude sucks. Converge sucks."
It was definitely just one of those moments where like somebody saw, like a bunch of people saw an Instagram clip. They have no context. They don't know what's going on.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it was definitely funny because it just was like, even if you zoom, like one Google search of like who recorded King Yosef album, would have solved it. But yeah.
Did you end up getting the Converge tattoo though? Like,
oh, it was the first tattoo I got when I was 18 years old.
Okay, nice. And you've still got it, correct?
Yeah, I have.
So there you go.
I have an "All We Love, We Leave Behind" tattoo on my leg.
Great record. Great fucking record. Yeah.
Fucking changed my life.
Yeah.
But
I want to switch back to the record,
of course,
and I want to kind of dig into some of the thematic stuff that you were kind of digging into before. So you were talking about an underlying hum being very focused on internal kind of thoughts and feelings, very inwardly focused, focusing on the past and some trauma and stuff like that. And in the press material for the new record, you talk about wanting to kind of like do a 180 and talk about the present and the future and kind of zooming out and looking forwards into, you know, what's next for your life as an artist, personal life, all that sort of stuff. So, with that kind of focus in mind, I wanted to ask you, what is the Spire of Fear and how does it relate to what's going on this record?
I don't know if I've actually ever said this in an interview, but every single piece of like every King Yosef project has like a physical idea connected to it because it's easier for me to write like that.
Yeah,
so like the ever-growing wound, you know, I came up with that phrase just randomly in passing, and I was like, well, like, what's like an ever-growing wound? And I was like a canyon, something that goes beneath the earth, you know, that is deep. It's like a well of things that you have to, like, if you were going through that, you have to fight your way upwards. And an underlying hum, it's like, you know, that one's pretty self-explanatory, something just below the surface. And so to me, the Spire of Fear is kind of like the, you know, looking forward, you're looking up, you know, and if there was like an altar that you kind of have to bow down to, it's like the fear of the future, because it's like, you know, in the whole span of the idea of the records, it's like what I came to on finishing an underlying hum and getting through all the stuff I had like gone through was like, you know, I was like, wow, I got to write this stuff for an underlying hum. The past is not scary, dude. It already happened.
Yeah.
You already know what it feels like, you know? I don't know what it feels like to be a 70-year-old man and not be happy with what I did with my life.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know what it feels like to like look back and be like, I didn't show up for people. I didn't show up for myself. I just hid from things because it was scary to me. That's terrifying. Yeah. And I think that's the thing that dictates a lot of people's lives. And acknowledging that within myself too, that's like something huge to me. You know, I feel like a lot of people don't do things because you're afraid of them.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I had a conversation where somebody said to me that a lot of people spend their whole entire lives trying to outweigh the fear of doing something, thinking that'll go away. But no one realizes that the fear goes away when you start doing it.
Yes.
And so that's kind of the concept of the record, is like the Spire of Fear is like, you know, it's the altar at the end, you know, it's like you've trudged the whole entire track and you get to the very end, and what do you have left? Like, you have to look at everything that you did, and is that scary? And it should be. And can you accept what you did and feel good about it, you know? And so, you know, this is the first album that ends on like any sort of hopeful anything. Like the lyrics for this album are like way less about like bah humbug, I don't know what I'm going to do, and more about like the acceptance of things. The record is like way more acceptance driven, which is like, you know, like I was saying, I don't have a record right now out that is like feels like true to me at this exact moment in my life. And this album's written in such a confined space that it's like, it's not that long ago, you know, that like, I think the only song on this album that had lyrics when I went to the studio with Kurt was Molting Fear.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So there was 2 sessions for this album, the one with Kurt, and then I stayed in Portland actually, and one of my good friends, Blakely McCurley, he'll kill me if I mispronounce his last name. Him and my other friend have basically the same last name.
Right.
But like, they're both from Scotland and their families split off, you know, like they're lying about not being the same. But they both get mad when I call them each other's last names.
Yeah.
But him and I, and then Cameron, who plays synth and guitars, and like AJ from Misery Whip, my good friend Robert from Slime, like all these friends that are in Bleakhouse and whatnot. I basically had a studio for 3.5 weeks off and on. and it was kind of just a rotating cast of people that would come in while I was recording the vocals. And I wrote basically the entire record lyrically, like front to back, from the middle of December until January 13th when I turned the album in.
Right.
So like,
okay.
It is like the most focused snapshot lyrically of like everything that I was going through or thinking about at that exact moment in time, which makes it feel really cool and makes it feel good that it's like coming out, you know?
Yeah. I think if we can talk about Molting Fear for a little bit, because first of all, the song just fucking slams. So kudos to you for that.
Hell yeah.
What was it about Molting Fear that kind of stood out and was the first one to kind of like have lyrics kind of like locked in as like the tracks for the whole album? Like, was it just very clear that you were like, this is the single, this is the one where everything is kind of like locked into place early on?
I know you're going to love this right now.
Okay, let's go.
Same as an author, man. First, last, second, you know, and then you fill in the gaps.
Okay,
I like that. That's generally how I write an album. So this time around, I didn't finish the last song first, which is funny.
Okay.
It's one of the last songs I finished. But I knew, like, I had the workings of the title track for a really long time. And so when I, you know, it all starts for me when I'm writing, like, I just write things down and keep it moving. I don't think about them. I don't meditate on them. And it's all very subconscious. So once I was like sitting here, probably in this exact same spot, and Spire of Fear like came out of me, I was like, wrote it down. And then I was like, okay. And then I was like, well, you know, basically the same thing I just explained about the concept of it. And I was like, all right, like that's, you know, so like, how would the fear evolve, you know? And then literally I was like, well, the fear would molt, you know, like it would shed its skin and continue to grow. And then literally wrote down Molting Fear because I was like, okay, so Molting Fear has to turn into the Spire of Fear at some point. Had that. And then I was like, it should, the working title of Molting Fear was actually Recruitment is the funny part. Because I literally said it should feel like in my head, I was like, it should feel like you're being recruited for something. Okay. It should feel really domineering. It should feel like occultish. It should feel like it should get really grand and terrifying and then focus in on like, I call it like an oasis. That's what I call that like weird back half where it's all dreamy right before it hits the last like breakdown. So like the ideas of like how the song would transcend like a story started to come to me. And then when I wrote the lyrics, they're actually in a notebook, which this album is the first album I've ever written everything down on a notebook. And I have the two sides of the page where it's the brain dump is what I call it. Yeah. Where you just go. And then the second side is the revised version. And it's literally the final lyrics, like just first go. And it felt to me like conceptually everything that the album's about is in that song. And then sonically I was like, okay, well, the last things I released were, you know, Cut the Cord, Mr. Pain, Shame's Mirror, which was pushing the like no guitar thing quite a bit. Yes. Yeah. And they worked live and I was like, okay, how do I turn those up and take it to somewhere new, basically? And I felt that if I came out the gate with Coactus and was like, oh, a song that has guitar, you know, it felt to me like I was conforming. Yeah. It felt like, okay, well, now I'm giving you what you want, you know, because everybody wants me to just like do the guitar thing. And I was like, no, Molting Fear is like terrifying as a song to me. Like that song's so pummeling that I was like, it would be awesome because it has the cinematic aspects. I can picture the video. Like this is single one.
let's talk about the video, because I feel like your description of the visualization process and like conceptualizing like the album's themes and then like track themes and stuff is very relevant to what's going on visually in the music video, because it's like one of the most pure kind of like aspects of your band, your music, your project. Like as soon as I watched that video, I was just like, this is it. Like the black and white monochrome, the fucking industrial like urban decay ruin setting, the live shit in the tunnel, like all of it, I was just like, this fucking rocks. Like this is exactly what I want from King Yosef, like visual, audio, everything.
Thank you so much, dude.
Yeah, talk to me about it. Like how was that experience, like bringing that to life? Because like you said, you already had the visualization in here. How did you make that a real thing?
What's even crazier is that there exist two different ideas for the Molting Fear music video.
Okay, all right. What was the alternate?
I really have this idea of like a cathedral.
Ooh, okay.
Like a huge church, and I really wanted these like shots, like kind of Kubrick style, long shots, but where me and the band, if it was on a fixed position, we would move technically like via cut, but what was happening in the background behind us would be the focal point of the music video. And so I had to like, dude, yeah, I was like borderline like schizo making these treatments. It was psychotic. But so like I had all these like depictions of art that I really wanted to do, of paintings, and create them in real life, basically. As like close as we could get to them. And that would be like basically like famous works of art that are embodying certain things that I felt connected to the record would be then in the background in live action for just like literally 2 seconds at a time.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was the original idea.
That's a completely different vibe to what you went with. So that's super fascinating that you can have like two alternate visions and both of them sound dope and they're doing different things.
Well, so the idea is like, you know, when I'm talking to people about like even, you know, George, who directed Molting Fear and directed Coactus, I tell everybody, I even tell Kurt, like the idea of King Yosef is extremely organic things and extremely inorganic things coming to a place where it's hard to discern them. That's the idea. So like to me, a cathedral is a really organic place because it's like, it's man-made, but it's about like spirit. It's about like, you know, things that feel more earthy, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, no, I feel you.
The parallel to that, what is like a church, what is man-made, but is not spiritual at all, is a nuclear reactor site.
Yeah. So, but it is kind of, I don't know, like it has this kind of like obelisk tower kind of quality to it. Yeah.
I'll say it for the record, standing in that cooling tower, dude, like could have made me cry because it was like oppressively symmetrical. Like there was like this weird beauty to it that was like the final shots of the music video, that tower specifically is the one that was finished in these tracks of, you know, metal and everything, and like everything was so rigid, and it was like you're in there and it feels like oppressively man-made. And then while you're in there, there would just be like a couple birds, like little baby songbirds, like tweeting and like flying around in there. And it was like, it was like so alien, you know? Yeah. It was one of those things where I literally said to everybody, it's crazy I'll never come back here in my life. Like it's crazy I'm experiencing this. But yeah, so that was always like I literally have the notes app where I was like this as a filming location, and it's the exact place we went. And I think it's from last September is when I found it. And I sent it to George when I found it. I was like, dude, check this out. I don't know if we could rent it, but it's there. And so we started the emailing process to try to get in there probably December.
Wow. Okay. that was one of the things I wanted to ask. I was like, how difficult was it to get in there? Because I thought, I was like, maybe they did this like guerrilla style. Maybe this was like all ghetto and like not official, which would make it
Dude.
cooler. But like, so like, tell me, how did it work?
Yeah, so basically, I was like internet sleuthing over this place.
Yeah.
And I found somebody that had like a blog spot from
Okay.
like 2013. And they're like digital camera photos that kind of suck. And they're like, can't believe I got to film a music video at this place. And I'm like, okay, so somebody's rented it for a music video before. And then I was looking, and this famous engineer, Sylvia Massey, recorded that band Thunder Pussy, I believe. She recorded
Hell yeah.
a live set inside of the first tower that's unfinished. I also love that I said live set, and I instantly went to the guitar on my hand right here for no reason.
Muscle memory. What's up?
Yeah, live set. And so I was like, okay. So I found their business, like it's a business park.
Wow.
And they just like rent it out for like people who need to ship stuff and like rent a facility. And I emailed them and didn't hear back and was like, fuck, dude, like, I don't know how else to do this. I guess I'll have to call them. Emailed them a couple times, and then I talked to George about it and had found pictures of where people went through it and through the towers and the videos they had up on like a website randomly with the history of the site. And he was like, it's too perfect. So then he got on the email thread. He starts calling them. We finally connect, and we're like, hey, this is what we want to do. And they basically were like, that's fine. We just don't do that. Like, we don't really know what the parameters are of like how we do this with you. Like, because they've rented it out for like Transformers and like Hunger Games, I guess.
Right. Okay.
But they're like, we don't really like know how to do this with like a crew of 10 people. So we filmed that at the beginning of April. I think it's like April 12th is the day we filmed that. And it's all one day from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Yeah.
And I think we got approval to go up there April 8th. And like people were flying in for this. Like, you know, we had like a whole camera crew with us, like everybody. And I was like, I guess I just have to lie to everybody and say that we're good to go. Because if they approve it and nobody's here, then we're screwed. But yeah, we went there, and I have to do a special shout out to Ross. He's the site manager, and he's from Aberdeen. And he hung out with us all day. He's an older gentleman who's definitely not into what we make. And he was so fucking cool to us. Hung out with us all day. Super sweet. Showed us everything, had all the local history, and was an awesome person to work with.
You didn't need to look at Wikipedia once. You had Ross there the whole time.
Dude, awesome. Yeah. Quite literally. Even though I definitely was on Wikipedia way before when I'm like, well, okay, so what's up with these reactors? Yeah, and so, the shots in the video too are chronological. So like the first shots you see for the most part are the beginning of the day. The tunnel that like is the Prodigy fire starter looking thing is the second location, and the final location is the final location for real. It's the last thing we shot. But yeah, it was like a super surreal experience. Shout out my friend Billy too, the director of photography, and his whole crew. Like everybody was so on it that day. And it was like definitely one of those moments where I felt very, very appreciative, because it's like this idea I come up with, and me and George hash out the idea, and then all of these people come together and help bring it to life, and it's fucking awesome. I'm so proud of it. So
yeah, I mean, all of that work and dedication shows in the final product, dude. Like, it's such a slick, sick, fucking cinematic piece of art. And
I also love that you mentioned the color grade. I just need you to know that. Okay. Because I'm the one who graded it.
Yeah.
And edited it. And I was like, well, it has to look like the Lighthouse. Yeah. That was my goal. I was like, it has to look like, an Eggers movie. So the fact that the color grade stood out to you, like the style of it and everything, thank you.
No, you're welcome. And I mean, like, I have a very basic knowledge of like what that takes from doing the show and trying to make our stuff not look like complete dog shit. But like it's a it's a real hard thing to nail. And I know that like you can get lost in the weeds, like trying to make stuff look exactly how you want it to look. But it looks so good, dude. And I just I think it is like such a quintessential kind of representation of what you do, what your music sounds like, the themes, all of it is fantastic.
Yeah, when we got there, man, and we did the site walkthrough the day before, and there's these cooling towers, and then everything behind it's just evergreen forest. I was like, this is it. Like,
yeah, perfect.
Everything I've ever envisioned in my art, this is it smashed against each other right now.
Yeah, that's so fucking dope. I want to talk about one other track on the new record, which directly follows Molting Fear, which is Glimmer. And if anything, it's like a kind of like a sonic palette cleanser of a kind after the kind of intensity and recruitment ferocity that you were talking about with that song. But that one features Ryan from Holy Fawn on the track. So talk to me about the mindset for Glimmer, the kind of like contrast with Molting Fear, and then how you managed to get Ryan to come on and do his thing.
I mean, for one, in the track list, it was by design, because it was definitely like, you know, it's still heavy in its own way, and it's still got like the aggression.
Sure.
But I definitely was like, okay, well, this is technically song 2, because the intro track is like setting the stage, but Molting Fear's track 1, so on and so forth. So I was like, the second track has to showcase the other side of this palette that we're going into.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit more abstract. It's a little bit more melodic. It's a little bit more atmospheric, and it's not as dense all the time.
Sure.
And it's like sort of the idea of like not being commercial per se, but like definitely like being like, it's like there's going to be fun, as much as you could call it that, on the record, where it's like there's moments where it's like okay to just bob your head, and like the beat isn't changing, the tempo is not fucking up and down, and like I'm not hitting you with a bunch of fucking, you know, left right pans. Like there's going to be moments where it's okay to like revel in that and let it just be a song without needing to like flash the production, and more flash the production from a songwriting standpoint.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah, and that song was like, I was like, damn, I felt like I wrote a cool guitar riff for the track Dredge from the singles I'd released, like the companion to Mist of Pain. And I was like, but what if I wrote like another riff that felt, you know, more gothy, like Pink Turns Blue is a band that I like a lot, but like slow. And so I wrote the intro riff to Glimmer, and that's exactly how the song starts, is how I wrote it. And then I was like, oh, you know, the boppy part of Shame's Mirror, where it gets like pretty industrial. Like I was like, that's fun. Like that always feels good when I perform it. I should do that again and turn up the intensity. And it doesn't need to just be an outro sort of B part to a song. It can just be a chorus.
Yeah.
And then, as regarding Ryan, like shouts out Ryan thoroughly, because Ryan saved my ass. Originally, Jake from Health was going to be featured on this song.
Right. Okay.
And the correlation to the timeline of this album is, while Jake's going to record his feature, the fires in LA break out.
Oh, right.
So that's happening right as I'm recording the album. And so I had texted Jake basically be like, hey, dude, I know the city's on fire. Like, you know, his house was safe, thank God. But like, I was like, I'll figure it out. Don't worry about it. And so I had this idea, though, of like a type of vocal. And, you know, I had connected with Ryan kind of through the Health tour. They'd caught our set in Phoenix, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And we had messaged a little bit because I'm a huge Holy Fawn fan. You know, love what they do. Love the way they mix things together. Yeah, love the ethereal with the like crushingly heavy. And so I DM'd Ryan and was like, hey, you know, I know we don't know each other that well, but like, I have this track and I can hear your voice on it. I think it would be perfect for the style you sing. The hard part is that there's a deadline in 5 days for this album and it has to be turned in. So I literally say in my message, basically like, this is an insane ask. If it's not cool with you, that's totally fine with me. I figured I would just ask. I'm not offended if you say no. Basically, Ryan was like, love what you're doing. What's up? And I was like, I can send you the track right now if you want to listen over it a couple times and let me know if you feel good about it, you know? He was like, yep, send it. So I think it was like 4 hours later after band practice for him, he was like, I listened to the track like 6 times. I love it. What do you want me to do? And I was like, I have these lyrics. There's 2 different approaches to the style of delivery. And he was like, there was a halftime one and a double time one. The halftime one's the one that makes the record. And he did the double time one first. And then me, the guy asking a favor, has to be like, let's try the halftime one.
Yeah.
Which, you know, as a vocalist, I don't ever want to re-record anything.
Totally.
And he was like so incredibly like catering to the song, to the process, and like to the timeline. I think it was within 36 hours I had the completed final stems from Ryan.
Fuck, that's crazy.
Yeah, and he's such a sweet person, like so fucking nice, cool ass band. Yeah, it just came together perfectly, and I was like, when it's meant to be, it's meant to be. And Ryan made it meant to be, frankly. But
yeah, shout out to Ryan.
Yeah, shout out Ryan for real, because that kind of timeline, not a lot of people would have abided by that and been like, that sounds like something a rational human being would do. But he was like, no, I'll record myself at home. Don't even trip. Like, I got it.
It's such a great song and a really great kind of companion piece to what you're doing on Molting Fear. And then listening to the record kind of yesterday when you sent through the link and kind of before we jumped on to do this, I noticed a lot of those kind of pairings going on in the track list, right? There's like the more intense numbers, the more kind of traditional live sound, King Yosef stuff. And then there is this kind of like companion piece or like spiritual kind of track that goes on that is more atmospheric, a little bit of like dark melody kind of woven in. And you're really kind of taking the listener on like this ebb and flow journey through the whole kind of soundscape of what you're doing. So yeah, I think it's just such a sick kind of companion to Molting Fear.
I'm glad you feel that way too, because there was definitely some talks amongst me and my friends where it was like, is this too slow? Like coming after Molting Fear. And after, you know, I listened to the track list, I moved things around. I tried XYZ thing. And then I was like,
sequencing is very important. Like you got to find the right sequence. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the Charlie Day meme with all the things attached to the pictures. That's me when I'm sequencing an album.
We talk about all the time on the show. Like it's super important, and there are records that I love that are fucked when it comes to sequencing. Like too front loaded. Like too many like songs together. Like I have definitely been that type A kind of person who's like seen a record come out, dropped it into a playlist and shuffled the songs around myself. And I was like, well,
that's
if I was
crazy.
the producer,
that's awesome.
I would have done it this way. So like, I feel you. You got to make sure it feels right.
Yeah. I really I thought I was going to lose my mind sequencing the album, frankly. I thought I was going to lose my mind doing every part of this album, to be frank, you know?
In a good way. In a good way.
Yeah, 100%. Like definitely pushing my limits. Positive, because I was like, not that I was more involved than last time, because it's always the same amount, but
Sure.
I definitely, my skill set has grown.
Yes.
So to get to places that I want to get to, it takes a little bit more work and finagling. So like doing the album art and doing like the vinyl layout and all that stuff too is like, those are skills
Which
I've
looks
been
dope,
building.
by the way. Like,
Thank you.
Sick.
Yeah, that was, getting the album art right. Like it sounds so dumb, but like the way the text looks on the front cover of Spire of Fear, that was like a 3-day debate. Where it was positioned, the size of the font, whether or not there would be a black border around the album art.
Mm-hmm.
It's slightly juxtaposed, like the monument technically comes over the border. It's not something most people ever notice. Those are things I thought about for days. So within the sequencing, it's like I knew that, like, okay, Molting Fears here, that's same as a movie. If something really gnarly happens at the beginning of a movie, it can't just stay gnarly the whole entire time. Otherwise, you don't give a shit.
Yeah.
So then Glimmer's the other side of the track. And basically the idea is that the sides of the track are just getting closer and closer together until it kind of melds into this like blur. Yeah. Where you're like, okay, now I'm just lost in the atmosphere of what this is supposed to be. Yeah. Because like Coactus is like rigid by design. That is like a very direct, straight to the point song. And it's like, yeah, it's because that's the last one you're getting. It's going to get way different as it goes on through this record. You've now understood the back, like the foreground. I've built the foundation for you. And as we go through the rest of it, you can hear those things you heard at the beginning, but they're very different now. Yeah. Sort of the idea. Because I really was like, I'm not front loading this album. That was something I really made sure about too. Because like, I love all the songs on this record, but like, I could have been like, well, to me, like, Blue Morning's the most commercially viable song. Toss that as number 3, and yeah. I was like, no, it's very important that people like have to take the steps to get to the place. It's like if you're walking up to the Spire of Fear, quote unquote, yeah, you can't just like roundabout, like, oh, I'm just gonna walk around the backside of the mountain and get there. Like,
no, and I think that kind of speaks to the creative vision of it, right? Is like, you don't want to compromise on any of this shit. Like, you wanna go to God City because you know that the people there are going to help you realize the vision in the best possible way. You want to record the Molting Fear video at that spot because you know that that's going to be the best visual representation of what you're trying to do. You want to make sure the album art is locked in. Like, all of these like decisions, the details that you're sweating for days, like, that's the no compromising aspect, is making sure that like every single fucking thing is locked in, and that all comes through on the record.
It really bites me in the ass a lot, honestly. If I would just compromise sometimes, yeah, it would be awesome. Well, I'm really glad that it comes across, because it's like, I think in the track list of this album too, I'm trying to showcase that this is by design. That's like a huge part of the way this record is structured and written, and the pieces of it. Like even the bonus track, like that song is like not a diss track, but it's like specifically showcasing like it's really nerdy actually. It's like hilariously nerdy, making fun track. But so it's called Everything's Point of Origin. Mm-hmm. And the idea is that while you're listening to it, it starts with a sample called Industrial Introduction from Throbbing Gristle.
Yes.
Every 4 bars, it changes a generation of industrial music. Mm. So as you're going through it, I specifically like, okay, 1979, 1980, 1985, 1990, 1995, 2000s, 2010s, King Yosef song. And the idea behind that is to be like, I can do this. Like, I can do the conventional thing. I can do the thing that, like, people think that I maybe can't do. And that's why my music sounds like this.
Yep.
And it's more like, no, like I do this by design because I can do that and I don't want to, you know?
Yep.
So that whole idea definitely plays into this album where it's like, you know, it's subversive through sonics instead of lyrics this time.
Yeah.
Is kind of the idea.
Yeah, subversive intent is kind of what I'm getting here, and that I think as like a pithy mission statement for the whole project is kind of like right there, subversive intent.
Yeah. C with a little circle around it from Owen right there. Little copyright.
Trademark that shit. Let's kind of wrap up the main show chat, and then we'll do a couple extra minutes over for the Patreon stuff. But I wanted to kind of talk about everything that happens after the record comes out. So August 15th, Spire of Fear is out. Again, go run it up, go listen to it. It's dope. But then you've got a tour coming up that we talked about a little bit, I think, off mic, but we can kind of recap it for people now. So you've got the Industrial Worship Tour coming up. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I'm hitting the road with Youth Code, which everybody's been asking me to do for like 5 years. So now everybody better come to the show, goddammit.
Give the people what they want. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we have Street Sex with us, which is, you know, they're an amazing band. They're also releasing a record on August 15th, which is how this tour kind of like lined up perfectly. And then my good friend, little sibling, Insula Scariot, they're an artist on my label Bleakhouse.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be opening the shows every single night. They just put out an album called Blood Flow. Amazing record, crazy industrial.
Yeah, crazy record.
For a debut album, I'm just like, damn, it's crazy. You smoked me that hard. But so we'll be doing that. We're starting the day after the album comes out on August 16th. We'll be gone until September 8th.
Mm-hmm.
And then September 12th and 13th in Portland, Oregon, I'm throwing the second annual Bleakfest, which is a festival dedicated to Bleakhouse, the label I run, but more importantly to Portland. Kind of trying to showcase and like do a weekend of just like fun ass shows at venues that a lot of us don't get to play anymore because the old guard doesn't really give a shit about what's happening in the city, and kind of taking over those spaces respectfully and showing them that we're around. So after that, I will be playing LA and San Diego with Author and Punisher.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is super awesome. And you know what? Actually, it'll totally be announced by now. I will also be doing an Eastern and sort of Southern U.S. tour with Author and Punisher in February as well.
Oh, fuck yeah. Hell yeah.
Yep. So that's what's confirmed that I can talk about, but there's a lot more coming that is just not announced. I've spoken to a friend of the show, mutual friend of ours, Mr. Lachlan Watt.
Hey,
about something happening, over there. I don't want to say it down under, but
down under, yes,
yeah. So there's things in the works.
Yeah, fuck yeah. That's exciting stuff, and good to see that like new record just means that you'll be back on the road, just dogging it again, just like getting back on the horse. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, it's interesting because I definitely feel like I'm gonna tour no matter what, but I'm definitely like, all right, well, after this album cycle, what the hell am I gonna do? After I tour for the next 2 years and sit on planes and trains.
Yeah, exactly. Well, look, we'll wrap up the main show here.
Cool.
Once again, Spire of Fear, August 15th. I'll have links in the show description for people to check out the record, do the merch, buy tickets, all of that shit. But Yosef, my friend, thank you for coming on the show once again.
Oh, yeah, dude. Thanks for having me.
No worries, dude.
Hello, Owen popping in to say, please sign up for the TPD Patreon. This is what helps us keep the lights on and keep the show going. The link is at the bottom of your screen right now, patreon.com/tpdpod. All of our patrons get exclusive access to Side B of our roundup episodes, so you get a few extra tracks, as well as our feature album discussion and the full show experience. Our patrons also get exclusive access to behind-the-scenes, off-the-cuff chit-chat from all of our guest episodes. But the patrons are the ones who make all of this happen. For as little as $5 a month, you can sign up to the TPD Patreon, and it really helps us out, really helps us keep the show going. So shout out to all of our patrons, shout out to our executive producer patrons, you're the real ones, and yeah, thank you so much for watching the show.